So Ingrid Betancourt and the other hostages may be free, but they still have a long journey ahead to recovery, if that is even possible. I'm joined now here on the set in the studio by Marti Loring. She's director of the Center for Mental Health and Human Development and the author of an upcoming book called Trauma, The Shattered Heart. Ms. Loring, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
First of all, I wanted to ask you about what we just heard. Ingrid Betancourt had been chained for 3 years on and off, and so were the other hostages. How do you cope with that, first of all?
It's just so horrible. It's so much more than you or I could even imagine living through. One thing that I've learned about Ingrid Betancourt is that she has a great deal of spirituality. She found meaning in what she was going through. She never lost hope. And that in itself can help a person just get through, such horrible experiences.
What about what she describes, the diabolical behavior? She has not gone into any details of what the captors did to her. She said that that behavior was so disgusting. They were even disgusted themselves, and yet they did that. How does she get over that?
Well, to be honest with you, when someone has experienced that kind of trauma, the shattered heart, just the terrible memories don't go away. I learned just this morning that she was in the bathroom and her son didn't realize that she was there and flipped off the light switch, and she had a flashback.
She thought that the FARC were back?
She did.
Immediately?
She did. And that kind of flashback, which is part of trauma, means that the memories just flood your mind and you feel like you're right back where the horrible thing happened, where the atrocity occurred, and you're reliving it all over again. That's unfortunately one of the symptoms of trauma.
So how does she get over this?
Well, in the first 6 months that she's back, thankfully she's back, the trauma symptoms may diminish. She may still have them over time, and hopefully those around her will understand if she does feel sad sometimes, or if she does have flashbacks. But hopefully in talking about it, in finding meaning in it, because she's already talking about how can I help the others who are still there.
Yes, that is just amazing.
Yes, and that is the greatest cure for trauma, to have the hope, to repair your heart, to think, what meaning can I find in this? And for her, it's, how can I help those? And, the survivor's guilt that a person can have when one survives, whether it's a car wreck or a terrible atrocity like this. And here she is, Ingrid Betancourt, thinking, how can I help the others? And she's already doing it. And that in itself will help her heart mend. Hopefully within the 6 months, we like to see people get better from trauma.
And you were saying that those 6 months are very critical.
Very indeed. Because after the 6 months, if someone is still suffering from these symptoms and others, difficulty sleeping, having a hard time eating, having a hard time being intimate with others, hard time focusing and concentrating, if that's still going on bigger and worse after 6 months, then we worry about someone having post-traumatic stress disorder, which is the biggest reaction to trauma a person can have.
How does somebody who's been away for 6.5 years, coming back to children who've grown up and become almost adults, to the world passing them by, how do you adapt to your new roles, to everything around you that is so unfamiliar and different?
It's really tough. And Ingrid Betancourt said, my son was so small, and I held him on the bed, I hugged him, and now I want to hold him and hug him as well in the bed. Oh, she said, I hope his girlfriend won't be jealous. And it was just so charming, but she was in her own sensitivity recognizing, what do you do when you come back? What do the men do when they come back? And perhaps their oldest son is used to filling in as the father figure. People I've spoke with who've come back from Vietnam and Iraq say that. They've told me that when they try to get back into the original roles, it isn't easy for their families. It takes time to reintegrate.
So she needs a lot of time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate your help with this, to try to understand the thing that can possibly not be comprehended by us who've never been through such a situation. Marti Loring, trauma expert.
Thank you. You're welcome.